He was always keen, and naturally, it just at that stage, we thought he was going to just be that bit too big. And stayed the size he is, and so on and so forth. And then he decided he wanted to give the racing a go.
He rode his first ever winner for me on his mother's horse. He's been here ever since, and he's been a great help to the yard. And he's had his ups and downs. He's not been the most fashionable jockey, but all of a sudden he's very fashionable now.
He used to be my chauffeur and kind of coming back up and down, bringing me home and bringing me back up to ride my eventers when he was going down to Paddy Mullins's. No, I've seen him since the very start, and it's been amazing. The year he's had, it's a credit to him. He's always had his head down and just always been a worker, and I'm delighted for him getting this award this year.
Hard work is just one of the many factors in the success story of Robbie Power. Top-class horses, great training performances, and the link-up with major owner Alan Potts have all contributed to the County Meath riders' return to prominence. But the most crucial factor of all is something that cannot be seen. A tiny prism attached to the inside of the rider's goggles, without which Power's season and indeed his career would have been in major doubt following a severe eye socket injury.
I got a fall at a normal handicap hurdle on Galway Plate Day, and fell at the second last first time round, and there was full field in Galway. You know what Galway is like, it's tight and compact, and came down, and another horse coming behind me just caught me with his knee straight into the face, broke my cheekbone and complex fracture the eye socket, which wasn't the end of the world. It was going to be 4 to 6 weeks and no major complaints about that. Galway was nearly over, and the month of August was very quiet, so I wasn't too worried. And then I went to see the surgeon, and he was happy the bones had healed perfectly well. You can go back riding out. So when I went back riding out and I sat up on a horse, broke into canter, and next thing you look out to the top of your eyeball, and I was like, oh, that doesn't look good. And just complete double vision. So I said, oh, I'm not fit, I haven't been working out, I need to get fit again. So back into the gym, into the pool, started getting myself fit. It got a little bit better, and I went to ride a week later in a maiden hurdle in Navan. And the first half of the race I wasn't too bad, and then when I got into the drive position, I turned in second or third place in Navan, 3 hurdles in the straight, and there was hurdles everywhere. Again, I worked hard on my fitness, went to Goran a week later, and it was nearly worse again. So I favoured in the first race on the Saturday, so of course I wanted to go and ride it, went to ride it. Galloping down to the last hurdle, complete double vision, I kept the revs up, it stepped. As it was going to step, I thought it was taking off the jump, I leant forward, stepped, put its head down, I went flying over its head, completely unseated rider, came back into the weigh room and met Ruby. He was actually standing with his phone in his hand, ready to ring my wife and tell her to ring him and tell him to stop riding. It was scary because I didn't know what the problem was, what was causing it. I first of all, as I said, thought it was a lack of fitness, but it obviously wasn't, and I had to go and get it sorted out. So I went to Dr. McGoldrick, and I got to go and see Claire Sheehan in the Eye and Ear Hospital in Dublin, and she referred me to Mr. Fitzgerald, and went to see him. And when I sat down at his desk in his clinic in Fitzwilliam Square, he told me that the damage was the muscles on the floor of my eye bed, and that it would take the eye a long time to settle down, and that he couldn't operate on it for about 6 months. So then, disaster, the tears started flowing down my face. So I said, I can't be out of action for 6 months. This has to be something done quicker. So he started trying prisms. He'd never dealt with a jockey before, so he didn't know what a jockey wears or whatever. So he asked, did I wear a protective cover on my eyes? And I said, yeah, we always wear goggles. So he said, well, that could work. He said, I could attach a prism to the inside of your goggle and we'll see how that works. The prism is a little small piece of plastic, and he sent me back to Claire. They found a prism that worked. I was delighted, straight back to Claire in the Eye and Ear, and she attached the prisms to my goggles. And that was like relief. I put them on in the car going home, looking at the signpost to make sure they weren't double vision. And down to Jessie's the next morning and rode out, and she said, do you want to school? And I was, yes, yes. And down up over the hurdles, and everything was perfect, and it was like I just won the lottery, you know, it was complete relief.
His vision may have been fixed, but a new injury was to throw his season into further doubt.
I'd been riding out a couple of days before and I got a small twinge in my back and I was like, oh, it's not too bad, and went on. I was riding my Murphy in the Testies who won the year before and was keen to ride him again, and got to the races, and I say I'd rode out that morning, wasn't too bad, and took a couple of painkillers, went out in the first one. It missed the hurdle down the back, sort of bunny hopped it and my backside hit the saddle, and as soon as that happened I could barely stand up again, and I got back up, and like I meant over the next few hurdles I couldn't move, could not move, hacked home, pulled up, I could barely pull the horse up, and David Mullins walked back beside me on his horse so that my horse wouldn't go off trotting, so we walked back in, jumped down off it. At the horse aerobics for Brian Hamilton, he was ready to give me a for not moving on it, and I said to Brian, I can't move. I says, my back is in bits, I've done something. So I went back into he carried my saddle back into the weigh room and said to the clerk of the scale, says, sorry sir, I couldn't move on that horse, I've injured my back. The doctor on duty that day came in, sent me straight to the Beacon Hospital in Dublin, and he had ruptured the disc between L5 and S1, something like that. And again, I was told I was going to be out for 6 weeks, which at the time, the week before, I just won the Kinloch Bray on Sizing John, and I knew he was going to the Irish Gold Cup, so I was like, oh, this can't happen to me again. So went back to see the specialist, Mr. Nagaria in the Beacon 4 days later, and he said, it's not as bad as they first thought it was, but I'll have you back in 4 weeks. And I was like, how about 2? So he said, what's the big deal? And I said, well, the Irish Gold Cup is coming up in just over 2 weeks' time and I need to ride in it, I have to ride in it. So he said to me, come back into me this day next week, which was on a Monday. And he said, I'll have a look and I might be able to do something. So I went back into him on the Monday. He gave me an MRI scan again and said that it had settled down well, and he said he'd be happy enough to inject into my back and I could come back riding out. That weekend then was the Irish Gold Cup.
To the final fence they come. Don Crowley Sizing John in the centre, and a follow was more of them as they run to the finish. Sizing John for Jessica Harrington, Robbie Power for Anne and Alan Potts will win the St James Irish Gold Cup.
A month after Irish Gold Cup victory, Power landed what he considers to be the biggest success of his career to date. On his first run beyond 3 miles, Sizing John carried a jockey to victory in the Gold Cup at the Cheltenham Festival.
Yeah, I don't think the horse got the credit he deserved for winning the Gold Cup. I think a lot of people thought that Jack Adams' mistake cost him the race. I thought it hit him back going to the second last, and even Ruby said afterwards, and the way the 2 horses went to the second last with my horse half a length down, I thought if Ruby's horse was going well enough to give me a race, he'd come up for Ruby, wouldn't he?
I sort of went over there thinking, well, you know, wouldn't it be brilliant to be placed in the Gold Cup? And I suddenly realised, you know, 3 from home, I said, jeepers, I think I'm going to be placed in the Gold Cup. And then I couldn't believe that he sort of changed gear and flew the second last and the last. He just and stayed all the way up the hill, which was always, you probably had in the back of your mind that he just mightn't stay.
10 years ago when I won the Grand National, when I walked back in, I was in a state of shock. And as soon as I crossed the line in the Gold Cup, I knew what this meant and I knew what I'd achieved. And that walk back down the chute in front of the stands, as you know, is like when I got to the end of it, I wanted to go back up to the top and do it again. It is the best walk in national racing, isn't it?
An extraordinary spring was made even better for the trainer-jockey combination of Harrington and Power when they won the Irish Grand National with Our Duke, who came home by 14 lengths in a field of 28.
You know, it was amazing because, you know, he was only having his 4th run over fences. But, you know, Robbie and I made a plan. You know, I said, Robbie, what are you going to do? He said, I'm going to jump out right up there on the wide outside. He said, Fairy House is brilliant for that because you've got 3 fences in a row before you get to a bend. And anyway, it's only, you know, it's not a sharp bend, it's a sweeping bend. And he said, I'll just give him plenty of light. And I actually think he, in fact, landed over the first fence in front.
I was convinced going out, I thought he was the best horse in the race, thought he was a standout horse in the race. Gigginstown ran 14, I think a lot of them were gone by the wayside. And I just thought he was the horse coming through that could just blow these away. And I said to Jesse, I said, the only way this can get beat is if I get stuck in the middle of them and he doesn't get a good sight of fences and get into a nice rhythm. And I lined up on the wide outside, 3 fences in line up for Ballyhack, and I just get into a nice rhythm, get these horse jumping over the first few fences, because he'd only had the 3 runs. And I couldn't believe how easy I was going, jumping the 3rd fence, that I was in my comfort zone, I had loads of room. And to be fair to the horse, then after that, it was just like a 4-runner race to him, because he was in his comfort zone. Horses around, the handicappers in behind couldn't go the gallop he was going.
Well, and it was amazing, because I thought they'd maybe gone a bit too quick when they all went up from the top of Ballyhack there. They went away from the others before, and went away, and then just going to the 3rd last, or just after the 3rd last, they sort of closed up a bit. But then he just went away again.
I didn't think we'd gone that quick. I thought I'd gone a nice even gallop. I was in my comfort zone. I knew turning in, I says, right, I'll put these on the stretch a bit. And he just picked up, and I knew jumping 3rd last, it was all over.
Coming to the final fence is 6 clear. The final fence, and our joke is over and clear. On a year for Jessica Harrington and Robbie Power. The boys' boats Grand National goes to our joke by 10 lengths.
Really, what he looked into last summer was something horrendous when he got the injury to his eye. Actually, off one of my horses, but got a kick from another horse when he was on the ground. And when you think that they were talking about 3 months, 6 months, oh, we don't know whether he'll ever ride again, and for him to get back as quick as he did, and this, you know, he has that prism in his goggles, and he can see perfectly. And then 2 weeks before the Irish Gold Cup, to spring a disc out of his back, you know, he went to the best people and they got him back, but he worked very, very hard at it.
I think it's the same in all sports. Everything has got more professional. I'm minding myself a lot more. I'm working a lot harder on my physical strength more than anything else. The older you get, the harder the falls are to recover from. And if your body's in good shape, it'll take them falls a lot better. So just trying to keep yourself fit and as good. And as I say, all the championship races in Cheltenham were won by jockeys 35 or over, Noel Feely, Ruby and myself. So, I mean, you don't know in this game what's around the corner, what's going to happen next week or tomorrow for that instance, but if you can keep yourself in the best physical shape you can, then it gives yourself a chance to ride for a lot longer. And I've always been told, it was Harry Rogers told me, ride for as long as you can, because when you stop riding you have to start working.
I'm so pleased for Rob himself. I appreciate what I did down through the years, and he wanted to follow on in some way. And look, he got the breaks in racing, and he had the ability to go through. But I don't walk around with a lot of power father. No, I don't do that at all.
He deserves it. He's an amazing ability to see a stride, like, and even it's a credit to him. Like, while he was racing, like, he won the Speed Derby at Hickstead 2-3 years ago. Like, he's unbelievable.